Hi, I'm Mayce.
And I'm Missy.
We're best friends
and business partners. And each week, we're going to bring you a quote that inspires us, and we're going to talk about it.
Join us as we break down our favorite impactful messages for leadership and share how you can apply them to lead with confidence and purpose.
Get ready for a fun and authentic journey into leadership, life, and everything in between. Well, happy Tuesday, bestie.
Happy Tuesday to you too, bestie. Glad that we are here another week. Glad to be with you.
Yes, I just love that we decided to move forward with doing this podcast. It's so fun.
It is so fun. I agree. You know, as we said in our very first episode, it took us a while, but now we are doing it, and I am so glad that we are.
Yes, the wanting took a while, but once we decided, we jumped in and got to work.
Absolutely. And it has been so fun. We have had such great guests talk about great leadership quotes with us. And guess what?
What?
We have got another quote and another guest this week, and we are going to
talk about it.
Yes, we are. So, Missy, why don't you introduce our guest this week, as he is married to another one of your besties, your childhood bestie.
Absolutely. I am so excited. I love it when my worlds collide. And although my bestie Dana isn't here.
Oh, we should have invited her. That would have been so fun.
It would have been fun. Oh, we should have. But here's the thing. She is a great leader, so we'll have to have her one day soon. But we've got 1 degree of separation from Dana because we have her husband with us. I've known him for a long time, I would say decades. Not as long as I've known Dana, of course. But Robert, how long have we known each other?
Well, I've known Dana for 32 years, and we met before we got married. So,
oh, Robert, the story you can tell.
At least 32. I got a good story. Her mother decided that the Holiday Inn was not good enough for me. So she invited me to stay at her house.
Mama Lottie.
Mama Lottie invited me to stay at the ranch house.
That's right. You stayed with us when you were dating Dana.
Well, I would say the Holiday Inn is not good enough for you, Robert.
That's exactly right.
She said, get out of there and come to me.
She that's just who she is, right? She's that hostess with the mostest.
Yes.
And
I'm sure she fed you well too, that Mama Lottie.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Robert, I'm so thrilled that you said yes to joining us this week. And I wanted to share with our listeners a little bit about you. And I want them to know just how much value you're going to bring. And so back in 1988, Robert, you started your career at Allstate Insurance Company in Little Rock, Arkansas, because we know you're a Little Rock guy, or I know that, now our listeners do. And you started at a local claims office, right? And you told me you weren't looking for a career necessarily, but let's talk about 33 years later.
I mean, that's impressive. 33 years.
Impressive.
That's impressive.
And a very rewarding career at Allstate. I mean, you worked in 5 locations. You, which I know that involved you and Dana moving like 4 times. You've held more than 10 roles in leadership in HR. And that was after leaving the claim operation in 1989. So you've done a lot since that time. Yes?
I have. We've moved around, experienced a lot, and every new chapter was very rewarding, and meeting new people and working with a lot of great folks.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about what you bring to our listeners today.
Well, he is an amazing person. And, amazing people generally make amazing leaders because they're focused on others. And I would say that is Robert's heart. He's all about people. He's all about people. Yeah. All right. So This week's quote comes from Sir Richard Branson.
Wait, why are you saying it in a British accent? British? Why are you saying it in a British accent?
Well, if I was saying Sir Elton John, I would say it in a British accent, probably just for fun, because we show up here real and authentic, and that's the crazy person I am.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of when we went to London with John Maxwell, right? There was a lot of British accents there, but that's a story. That's a story for another day.
But I will say, I think you told me stop talking in a British accent when we were in London, like, because I kept trying to like pull it out.
Yeah. All right. We digress. Back to the quote. What's the quote this week?
Well, the quote for this week is train people well enough so they can leave, but treat them well enough so they don't want to.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
It is. And I want to say this real quick, is that whenever we invited Robert to come on the podcast, I asked him what he was passionate about. And it was like having people grow and become their best selves in leadership or something like that. But I didn't think about the fact of how well this quote goes with the fact that he certainly didn't leave Allstate for decades.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. All right. So, Missy, I'm going to ask you first, gut reaction, and then we'll ask Robert the same thing. What does this quote mean to you? So, Missy, you go, and then Robert, you go. So what do you think it means, or what does it say to train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so they don't want to?
So usually we just ask our guests this, Mayce. You're putting me on the spot, so you have to answer it too. I would say it's about pouring into your people in a way that they can grow and take that growth with them wherever they go. But it is connecting and adding value to them in such a way that they are in a place that I almost use the word comfort zone, but that's not fair because none of us want to be in our comfort zone, but where they don't want to go out and find something better than, because they found what they need right with you. Does that make sense?
That's so good. All right, Robert, what about you? Train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so they don't want to.
So I look at that more from an internal perspective.
Okay.
So part of my role being in HR is you want to develop your folks, you want to get them, you want to promote them to places where they either would not be comfortable with to get them out of their comfort zone.
Yes.
But so what I did for my 33 years in leadership is I would train and develop individuals so they could leave for a opportunity within the company. So I was grooming individuals for upward mobility within the walls of Allstate.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we could still keep that talent within. They could go on and do bigger and better for whether it's another business unit or whether it's a different area within HR.
Yeah.
And when you treat them well enough that they don't want to leave, it brings me back to where, it used to be that people would leave because of pay. Yeah. They would leave they'd leave after 5 years, they'd leave after 10 years for maybe $10,000, $20,000 a year. Then it started to move more towards the working environment and the relationship they had with their boss. Mm-hmm. If they didn't have a good relationship with their boss, it didn't matter if their benefits were spectacular, if their pay was good, their total compensation package was top notch. If they didn't have a good relationship with their boss, or their boss was not creating that environment for them to be successful in, then they leave.
Yes.
And Missy, I know that you're our quote girl, but there is a quote that says, and you may have to correct me, I may not have it exactly right.
Okay.
But people leave leaders, they don't leave companies, meaning exactly what Robert's saying, right? Like if there's not a relationship there, then I'm going to leave. I'm not leaving the company. The company's great, but the people I work for, not so much.
I was thinking that when Robert was sharing, like he was hitting that proverbial nail on the head.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll go and then we'll move on. So what I think it means, right, is to train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so they don't want to, is you want to resource your people as best as you possibly can. Right. So they will never come to you because they are so well resourced. They have everything they need to do their job. Treat them well enough so they don't want to leave. It's that relationship connection piece, right? Like they are part of the family. It doesn't matter how much money someone else is offering. They treat me so well here, and I have everything that I need to make a difference or do my job that I don't need to leave because
I'd be crazy to leave.
Yeah, I'd be crazy to leave.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that at the core of that's what it is to be a leader, right? It's so important to connect and empower your people. You both spoke into that. And these are probably two of the most common things we train on, right, Macy? Empowerment and connection.
Yes.
And when you empower your people and they feel valued and needed and seen, and you acknowledge that they have meaning and they mean something to you and to the company and that they have a role in the company's mission and goal. When you do that, why would anybody want to leave?
Right. I mean, what you want to, as a leader, right? I think, Robert, you can agree with us on this. You want to have the best people on your team, right? Like who wouldn't want to brag about saying, I have got the best people on the team? And as a leader, it's your responsibility to ... right? Missy and I always say that. And in this case, it's the leader's responsibility to make people feel in such a way that maybe they could leave, but why would they want to, right? There's another version of this quote. Tell me if you guys have heard this version. CEO and CFO are talking, right? They're having a conversation. Maybe this is a riddle or something. I don't know. I think it's a quote, but it could be a riddle. I don't know. I don't know the difference.
It's a quote, but I like you saying it is a riddle. So go with it.
So the CFO says to the CEO, what if we train people and they leave, right? What if we train these great people and they leave? And then the CEO says, what if we don't train them and they stay? Right?
We don't want them to stay.
We don't want them if they're not trained well enough. So I feel like that's the arguing that it's worse not to invest in employee development, even if they leave, right? Because they might stay without those necessary skills to perform well. And then, quite frankly, who needs them?
Well, that's what I was saying at the beginning, right? Is that you want to pour into them and build that skill set, but you've got to connect with them so they want to stay. So, Robert, when you think of that quote, train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so they don't want to, did that have anything to do with the way in your decisions to stay at Allstate for so long?
It had everything to with it, because when I started with the company, I was only going to stay there 2 years because I was going to get my 2 years work experience, and I was going to move to Dallas,
laugh only because like from 2 years to 30, like it was a 2-year plan that wound up being a 33 plan, a 33-year plan.
Yeah. And that's so true, because I went into it with the mindset, 2 years gets me the experience that this company wants, because they wanted me to get my MBA. I was pretty much done with school. I wanted to get out in the real world and make an impact, make some money. And
leave your mark.
That's right. That's right. And 18 months after being there is when the HR manager came up to me in Little Rock and said, I want you to come work for me. I see something in you where your internal relationships that you have with the employees can help me to grow my department. So I moved to Jackson, Mississippi, and started working in HR, and never looked back. I mean, they treated me well. The environment was great. I never woke up one day in 33 years and said, oh my gosh, I have to go to work today.
That's amazing.
I know how much you loved your job. I mean,
I have a question.
Okay, go.
Did anyone in those 33 years, did anyone try to woo you away?
They did. I had a couple headhunters call, and I said, you got to lay it out better for me than what I've got. And it's almost has to be twofold.
Yeah.
And they could offer the more money. They could offer, they could tell you about the opportunity.
Sure.
But that's just a play on words where someone says, oh, we have all this opportunity. I can show you the mobility and the upward growth that you'll have and so on. But, they'd have to be able to demonstrate it. And the only way they can demonstrate it is just say, well, we hired Jim, and Jim after 2 years did this and this. But everybody's different. Everybody is so different in the way they develop themselves, the way they are developed, and then what's the next step for them. Yeah. And through those multiple callings that they reached out to me, nobody really came up with the full package that I had.
Yeah. And also it's one of those things like you might, if you're staying because you're treated well, right? If that's the true reason why you're staying, you wouldn't know what's on the other side unless you left. And why would you leave if they're treating you so well? So it's kind of like there was no way for them to prove to you, if it's not about the money, it's about how you were treated and how that, there's no way of knowing that unless you left. And why take that chance when you had it so good? I mean, 33 years in one company says a lot about you, but it says a lot about the company too. We just don't see that in this day and age, I don't think.
No, especially not in the day and age today, right? People are staying very short times. But I do think, y'all, that leaders get scared about losing talented people.
Sure.
Right? Where you're treating them right and you're wanting them to stay. And what happens is that if you're treating them right, even if they leave, they can become your greatest advocates. Sure. They might even refer amazing talent back to the leader because of the respect and the culture of the organization.
Yeah. I mean, I think it obviously we're going to say this, right? Because this is what we do for a living, is we do think it's important to invest in people. I mean, that's what we do. People hire us, they bring us into their organization, we help leaders lift their lid. But Robert, I imagine in all of your years, in one company, you've seen it all, right? There have been people that have been trained well, and they leave for a variety of different reasons. What makes them stay, or why, when they do leave, like, how do you feel about that? Like, you've seen a lot of those types of things. So when you do train them well and they do leave, let's start with that. When you train them well and they leave, how do you feel? Like, how'd you feel about that?
Well, when I train somebody because I love to promote individuals and get them, I don't want to shove them away or get them out of my department. But like I said earlier, you train them up for their next opportunity, whether it's inside the company or whether it's outside. And if it's outside, then that's just part of that's bad turnover, as you would call it. Good turnover is obviously the ones that are not performing. And you're hoping that they leave. You don't have to fire them and go through all that mess. But if you have the right succession plan in place, you already have somebody in place for that person that's leaving.
Yeah. It's bench strength.
It is bench strength. Yeah. So you move them. Now you have an opportunity for that person that may be just right up under the one that just left. And now that opens up a door, an opportunity for that person. Now they're seeing, oh, yeah, I hate to see Jim leave, but now I got
Mary anyway. Yeah.
I'm in, now I get that role. And then you get to see those individuals bring a whole different perspective to the role. And a lot of times you find out that, you know what, this person in waiting is better, or if not just as good as the one that left.
Yeah. Well, because I think when somebody else takes it over or moves into a role, they bring their own unique style and innovation and ideas. And so sometimes it can be better, or at least it is, as my mom would say, change is as good as a vacation. Sometimes it's just refreshing that they bring to a role.
How do you
Mayce, I
not?
It's just the
interrupted
energy.
you. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just curious, like, how do you not take it personally when you've invested, whether that be financially or just connection, relationship wise? How do you not take it personally when someone leaves to go somewhere else? You've invested so much time, so much energy in this person, and then you're like, now what? They left.
Yeah. Well, obviously it doesn't feel good. You feel like you've been betrayed, if you will. But again, if you've done your job to help them, develop them within that role, most likely through that development period, you've gotten a lot out of them.
Yeah.
So it's not like you trained them on day one and they left on day two.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because you've been training them. Let's just say that you started a development program for them in their third year of the company and they leave you in year 5 and year 6. You've already gotten a lot of stuff. You've already gotten a lot of work out of them and a lot of good stuff.
All right, so let's back up just a little bit. What does it mean to train people well enough? I mean, that can really be different from everyone.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you can train people well enough because does anybody really have a max of their ability to learn and to do something different?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I think sometimes it comes down to creating a culture where people want to stay, right?
Yes.
Whether that's someone new or someone seasoned. When I hear of people, or like when Missy and I train organizations and we train people who have been in an industry or with a company for 33 years, we're always fascinated by that because so many people don't stay, right? Like as many people as we train that have been in industry for a long time, there are probably more people that don't stay in a job or don't stay in an industry.
And I think what Robert was talking about really is that culture that you create, right? Because culture can trump, so to speak, the position or the role that you're in.
So, Robert, I have a question. What advice would you give to leaders who are listening and they're hesitant in investing in training for their people because they're fearful of losing them?
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, what would you say to them?
You can't be afraid because number one, you can't predict the future. You don't know they're going to leave. So you got to treat them as if they're not. And you give them the opportunities, you monitor them, you make sure that you are available to them. Questions, bounce something off of you or something like that. The individuals that reported directly to me, I said, you know what, there's no, you've heard this before, there's no bad questions. Just come and let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
And before you have a conversation with another leader about helping them with an employee, whether it's performance management or whatever it may be, if you want to do some role playing with me, let's do it. Let's do that. I will pretend like I'm the manager you're about to consult with to help them with their employee. And, my door was always open. They always had my cell phone. I said, or the other one is just take the risk. Go out and do what you are comfortable with doing because there's nothing I can't get you out of. I mean, it's insurance. It's not that complicated, right?
Yeah. No mistake is probably going to be fatal.
Right. So it's really just train if you don't train them, you're going to lose out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to that riddle part, right? It goes back to that riddle that I was saying. If you don't train them and they stay, like, that's not going to serve you as a leader. Then you have all these people who are staying with you and they're not trained well. So, like, they're not going to be able to do their job effectively, I suppose.
And if they can't do their job, guess who their job falls on to?
That's right.
That's right.
Buck stops with the leader.
That's right.
Yeah. I think there really are so many benefits that come from training your people well. And of course, if you're thinking of like soft skills training, right? Providing your team with that type of training, it has the potential of making them more effective and efficient in their role. So
Yeah.
it's not just about the skills, it's about getting things done better, faster, in a more productive way.
And I would say, Missy, like the leadership development training that we offer, right? We help managers. I mean, we would like to call them leaders, but there are still a lot of leaders out there who consider themselves managers. That's a story for a whole nother episode. But when you offer leadership development training, your leaders are going to engage better with their teams. And that's going to result, of course, in productivity, which at the end of the day, that's the big thing, right? That these companies and organizations want and need is productivity.
Yeah. And we know, Mayce, I would say we know that effective leadership, it improves everything in an organization, collaboration, workflow, overall productivity and performance, as we were just saying. And what company doesn't want that?
Right.
Right.
Because
go ahead.
If you're not developing the leader, they're probably not developing their people.
1,000. How can they?
Yes.
I mean, they can only develop people to the lid that they are. You can't develop someone more than what you are. So that's a great point.
You don't get the trickle down effect.
You know, some of the companies we work with bring us in to do bench strength leadership. I mean, we're talking about training people well enough so they don't leave, but sometimes it's time for people to go, right?
Sure.
They're ready to retire. And leadership development in those instances can help organizations identify and nurture that potential future leader. And what it does is it ensures that smooth transition and also, I would say, organizational stability.
Right, because at the end of the day, when you invest in leadership development, Robert was talking about this earlier, right? That's when you're getting that trickle down effect. You're building a stronger team, you're improving performance, you're creating a positive work environment that supports growth and success and innovation. And this quote today, I really liked it because I think it's a good reminder for our listeners that sometimes it may seem like there isn't value in training someone for the fear that they're going to leave. But if you train them and take responsibility to create a culture of empowerment and connection, they're going to stay.
I would agree. And so go ahead, Robert.
No. I totally agree.
Yeah. And so for today, I would say if you have only one takeaway from today's episode, let it be this. Leadership isn't about holding people back or controlling them. It's really about equipping them to thrive, whether it's with you and your organization or in their future endeavors.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like it's less about you, more about them.
Ooh, I like that. Yes, it's less about you and more about them.
Yeah, it's giving them the tools to succeed.
Yeah, Robert, as we kind of wrap up, are there any other thoughts that you want to share with our listeners about training people well enough so that they...
I think just they just can't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
You can't be afraid to take somebody under your wing and show them the love, if you will, that they've got potential. We want them here at this company. They've done a lot of good stuff. They have the potential to do even better good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if they decide to leave, then you hate to take the attitude that just leave. But if you've done your job right,
they won't.
You've got that other person.
Yeah.
Then it's not going to impact your operation. But always ask individuals, if you're thinking about leaving, please give me the first right of refusal to talk to you.
Oh, that's good. That's a good tip. Yeah. Come talk to me and see if we can make it work here.
Yeah.
Because we value you, we see you, that kind of thing. Missy, what were you going to say?
Well, I just have one. Go ahead, Robert.
No, I was just going to say when I sit them down, I said, this is not about money. If you're coming to me because you're getting an extra $50,000, I'm not giving you $51,000. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
That's not how this works. I can show you the path to success. And if you make up your mind that the grass may be greener somewhere else, then you know what? Go try it. And I've had a lot of individuals over my 33 years that have boomeranged back.
Yeah.
We see it a lot.
And,
yes.
Sometimes we have the opportunity to take them back, and sometimes we just don't have that opening, or their position has actually been taken by somebody else that's doing just as well, if not better than what they were doing. So, yeah.
What I was going to say, just real quick, piggybacking on, Robert has said this a few times, Macy, and I know you noticed it because we're so in tune with this. He's used the word fear. And what I would say, if as a leader, and quite frankly in life, if you're making decisions and you do some reflection and realize that they're fear-based decisions, those are never the right decisions to make.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Robert, I'm going to ask you a question. You may or may not be prepared for it. You may not know the answer off the top of your head. And if you don't, that's okay. I'm just curious. Being in HR, you might know the answer to this. Do you know, and every company is going to be different, but just out of curiosity, and maybe for some of our newer leaders, do you know the cost of onboarding someone new? Like, does that cost a company $5,000, $500, $20,000? And the reason I ask this is because it's the fear-based question, right? If you're fearful that they're going to leave because you've trained them so well, but if you don't train them and they leave, now you have to hire a whole new person. So what's the cost of that? And again, I know it could be different companies, different industry, but
yeah, it's definitely different, and a lot of, so I do know that the cost when we would hire a sales agent, because we would give them some upfront education money. We pay for them to go to Chicago for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Hopefully
not in the winter. Hopefully not in the winter.
Yeah, to train them. We would we'd help them hire staff. We would help them get their office set up. It was about anywhere between $120,000 to $150,000.
Wow.
In the first 6 weeks to get these individuals ramped up.
Yeah.
Now, for an individual contributor that comes in that may work in our claim department or our finance area, it's still a pretty good sum. But again, you've got to do that regardless of who you hire. Obviously, you want a return on that money. So the longer you can get them to stay, the more return you get, right?
Right.
Which is why you want to treat them well.
Treat them well, right? You want to connect with them. I mean, it
Absolutely.
all makes
and then
good sense.
And there's a lot of opportunity costs there too that you can put up in pen and paper too.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, I was just curious because I think like you had said, and Missy, you were piggybacking on, people make decision based on fear, but sometimes you've got to make it based on the checkbook, right? Like we got to keep these people, we have to train them, and we have to treat them well, right? It's both of those things.
Yeah, it's not an either or, it's a yes and.
And for our listeners, we've got a special gift. It's a simple but powerful tool we created called the Leadership Training and Retention Checklist. This free resource is going to help you decide 2 things. 1, are you equipping your team with the training they need to thrive? And 2, are you creating the kind of culture that makes them want to stay? So whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting out, this checklist is going to be a great way to level up your leadership game. You're going to be able to grab your free copy in the show notes or by emailing us at connect@impactfulmessages.com.
And let us know what you think about the quote this week. Do you agree investing in your people well enough so they can leave, but treating them well enough so they stay? Share your thoughts with us on social or in the comments because we would really love to know.
We really do want to know.
Yeah, we do. Inquiring minds. Robert, thank you so much for joining us today. As we wrap up, if our leaders want to stay connected with you, I know you've got your own little consulting business and you're helping people in HR. How can people keep up with you?
Yeah, so I am on LinkedIn, and I
Okay.
do have a consulting business, JRM3 HR Consulting, and LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect. I'm there at least every day.
All right.
Okay.
We're going to put your LinkedIn in the show notes too, so that our listeners, Robert, as we wrap up, what is your favorite leadership quote?
Oh, I'm ready for this one.
Well, interesting that because, I have been introduced to leadership quotes, and I usually go out and try to find one that is relative to the situation where I am at that time.
Sure.
A lot of them come up and said, "Oh, this would be interesting. I'll share this in a meeting," or something like that. But for this one, Ronald Reagan had a good one, and he said, "The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one who gets the people to do the greatest things."
Oh,
that is so good.
Oh, Ronald Reagan.
That is so
did
good.
some good things.
That is a
Yeah,
good one.
great.
I like that one. Yeah.
Thank you,
Yep.
Robert.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you. Do you have a favorite leadership quote? Let us know that too, and we may spotlight it on a future episode, huh, Macy?
Yes. And we'll be back next week with another quote and more leadership insights. And you know what we're going to do?
We're going to talk about it.
Bye, Robert. Bye,
Bye,
bestie.
Robert.
Bye.
Bye, bestie.
Bye-bye.
We want to thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, please show us some love by clicking the 3 dots to download the podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating on your podcast app and talk about it with other leaders to help them find the show from any of the major podcast apps. We'd love for you to follow us on social media too. Mpactful with an M _ messages on Instagram and Mpactful Messages on LinkedIn.